Let's do some sort of discussions around who they could be then, shall we? Because there's been a lot of names sort of banded around. Obviously, Milos Kerkez at Bournemouth, somebody Richard Hughes has signed once already, so that's an obvious link. Aiton Norrie, Anthony Robinson impressed very much so at Anfield recently for Fulham. I know your piece centres mainly around Jorell Hato. Yeah, talk us through some of the names and sort of the positives and negatives in around them, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So just to firstly to answer the names of people you mentioned now, I think Herkej at Bournemouth, not for me yet. I think that is a classic situation when players had a good season, and I think people are maybe jumping on the hype bandwagon a little bit too early. I think he's very good. But I'm not sure seen enough of him defensively yet to say he's a good person to bring in for Liverpool long term. I may be proven wrong, but that's just my take on him. I think he's a good player, don't get me wrong. Aiton Norrie, seeing more as a wing back personally. I think he might have even played more as a left winger at times for Wolves. Again, not saying he's a bad player, but I'm not sure he'd be right to replace or at least start the succession planning for Robertson, because to be clear, this is a big thing Liverpool have got to get right. Right, we've seen this enough with clubs in the past, with important players. They don't plan correctly or they sign the wrong people. So Liverpool need to think this through, I think, hard. Out of the ones you mentioned, I think the best option for these Premier League players, as you said, is Anthony Robertson at Fulham. Again, I referenced him in the article we mentioned. I think he's got a lot of his attributes you want. Strong defensively, offensively. Absolute machine over on the left-hand side. He's been playing as a wing-back, I think, in the last couple of games for Fulham as well. So he has that positional flexibility, can score, can cross. Got a great assist with his right foot, I think, the other week as well, in one of the matches he was playing in. And he seems a bit of a real fighter on the pitch as well. I can imagine Anfield loving Anthony Robertson, to be honest with you. I think he's a very good player. So then in terms of the piece I referenced, the reason I focus it on Hato at Ajax is a number of reasons, and feel free to jump in at any point on this. I think he has all the key attributes that Slot wants in a defender. I think he's the right age profile. He's in terms of someone to grow with Andy Robertson. He's only 19 in March, but he's already been capped by the Netherlands. He was in March 2023, he was captain in the under-17s for the Netherlands. 6 months later, he got his full debut for the full national side. There was a real misconception with Hato, and I keep reading it in articles, and I'm shouting at the screen that he's a centre-back. He came through as a left centre-back, and don't get me wrong, he's very good there, but he's now played more games as a left-back for Ajax. Converted there in the full-time role this season. He, for me, is the ideal person to bring in at this moment. Excellent passer of the ball. I think the third most passes in the Eredivisie in the 23-24 season, and the best completion rate within that. Highest in the league also for ball carries, so he's actually very good offensively as well. People assume, he's a left centre-back converted to a left-back. He must be like Dan Burn at Newcastle. No offence, Dan Burn. But he's a lot better than Dan Burn. He's actually, if you watch him play, really good at overlapping runs, underlapping runs, can step inside into midfield as well if you need to as well. You can play left back, you can play left of a three. I had a brief conversation with Carl Anker at The Athletic the other day, and he was saying, the article, I'd love him at Man United because he can play at left. He can play at left side, just back through position really well too, I reckon. A leader, captain Ajax throughout his time through the academy. Already captained the side as well, the first team, despite his age. So that's worth factoring as well. Defensively strong. He's 6 foot. He's quick. In the past year, I read he's the highest ranked for aerial duels. So he's strong in the air as well. I really like that about him too. So he's versatile, leader, can attack and defend. I also think you've got to think about rotating other players as well. So if Van Dijk does stay, say Slot wants to give Robertson a run of the games, also rest Van Dijk for a couple, shift Hato inside to left centre-back position. That's another bit of thing maybe we'll start thinking about is how you manage Van Dijk moving forward as well. He's already played nearly 100 times for Ajax, which is incredible. He was the second youngest player to be capped for the Netherlands since 1931. He's reeling off the stats here because they're really, really impressive. And also, the final thing I would say with Hato is I think it's a financially prudent, well-timed signing. So earlier we said the signing of Andy Robertson was arguably one of the best in Liverpool's history, maybe in the Premier League for that position. One of the reasons it was so good is because they moved at the right time for the player as well as for them. The player's profile was rising, not as high as it could have been. The transfer value could have been a lot harder. Other teams, big clubs, Arsenal, for example, others, are taking note of Hato. His transfer value is only going to rise more he does well at Ajax. He's playing every week. He's already playing for the Netherlands. Ajax know that they're going to have to sell him soon. He was about the only player they didn't want to sell last summer. So they're going to cash in soon. You can bet they're going to try and drive up a bit of a competition between clubs to get that price nice and high. So I think Liverpool right now need to be going, right, we know you're going to be thinking of selling him. This is our plan for the player. Speak to Hato. You either get a plan in now for January to sign him in the summer, or you make the move now. I think they need to sell one of Tsimikas or Robertson. I would argue Tsimikas because I like Robertson. But for me, if you really are committing to Slot and his way of playing, Jorell Hato is the best option for Ajax. And if anyone says to you, "Oh, he's a left centre back," ignore them. He's not just left centre back. If anyone says, "Oh, he's from Eredivisie," look at those examples of players from the Eredivisie gone wrong. I get it, but I guarantee this guy is a once a generation player. He's quality. I think he's only going to get better, and I'd be really excited to see what he could do if he was learning off Van Dijk and Robertson. And if he does join, ends up being an absolute car crash. I've now said that all to you, and I'm sure that can be clipped, but that's my take on him.
No, yeah, and you're more than entitled to it. Yeah, and it's a name that's been sort of in and around these circles for a little bit of time now. And you were right. I had to smile when you said almost instantaneously everybody just goes, he's a left-sided centre-back who's been converted to a left-back. Does he really have the attacking credentials with which to sort of come in and be a more conventional fullback? But clearly from what you're saying there, he most definitely does. I wanted to sort of ask you, because there's loads of positives in the man in there. His age, obviously, the fact that he's played so much, because that is the other thing with young players, how big's the sample size? But if he's already heading towards 100 appearances near the VC, then pretty big, I think it's fair to assume. Certainly for somebody who could well come in and just be an understudy for a bit, you don't need him to be plug and play in the first team necessarily. But are there any drawbacks to somebody like Jorell Hato at all that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, he's still, despite what you just said, he's inexperienced at a top league. I love the Eredivisie. I try to watch games every week. It's my local league, but I'm not going to lie about it. It's a poorer league compared to the Premier League, so he's improving at that level. I do think, when he still is only 18, there's always, when you've got players who play this much football at that age, you might argue, is he going to be risk of injury problems as he starts to develop? We've seen so many examples of young players playing a lot of football and then having those niggles and things as they get older. That could be a drawback potentially. And I think maybe as well, if we're really looking at this as honestly as we can, would Liverpool want a player who has played his whole career as a left back and is always seen that as his role in the team? Hato, I think it's very good that he can play in two positions. It's important for Slot. I think it's important for a modern footballer. But some people may watch this and think, why would you go for him? We can get Robinson, who's played in that position his whole career. So I would say they were maybe some of the drawbacks to him. I also think a potential drawback would be, I think his transfer value could really keep going up if Liverpool don't make a move for him soon, which is why I'm pushing for it now. Would he be worth 60, 70 million? I don't think so at this point, and I would argue if that starts to be the case, Liverpool should look elsewhere. Okay,
interesting. Yeah, I want to touch on what elsewhere could look like in a moment, if possible, as well. But yeah, I think he does certainly sound like he makes a lot of sense. And again, the age factor is a big one for me, because I don't think we need the instant, he's your guy, he's your left back now. I think having somebody of his ilk to learn off Van Dijk and Robertson, as you said, is absolutely the way to go. And of course, the fact that Arne Slot will be well versed on him, probably having come up against him once or twice, you would imagine, his managerial career, and probably watching him more or less week in, week out as well, because I imagine he watched a hell of a lot of Ajax during his time over back in his home country, of course.